Well, hello there. This is Sloflinski Homes. Happy New Year to you, and I hope this video interview comes to you and everybody's doing well, everybody's happy and healthy. Well, we're starting off the new year. We're mid-January, and this is the time that many homeowners that are considering putting their homes on the markets are starting to do their preparations in, putting their home on the market. So today I brought on Bob Casey of A1 Property Inspections. The reason being is when a homeowner puts their home on the market, once it is sold, one thing the buyer will do is have a home inspection. So today we're going to provide some great tips for you, the homeowner, the home seller, to kind of prepare yourself for the home inspection and to decrease any red flags that may come up from the home buyer. So Bob, great to see you today.
Thanks Bob. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, so tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your business.
Okay, so I've been in construction since I was a teenager. I started this business about 6 years ago. And we inspect homes, we inspect commercial buildings. We use a fair amount of technology to make sure that we don't miss anything. And yeah, this is what I was born to do.
And you do a great job. I know
Thank you.
We've worked together quite a few times over the past couple of years. And the one thing I do appreciate about using you for home inspections for my buying clients is that if there is something, to be aware of that may be an issue in a home, you will find it. And I know my clients have appreciated that as well.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. So again, this is the season when many people start considering putting their home on the market. Home inspections will come up once the buyer comes to an agreement with the seller. Now, as a seller, unless you have a full, thorough pre-listing inspection, a seller's not going to know everything that may come up. However, there are certain things they can do themselves to kind of decrease the amount of flags that come up for a buyer. In other words, the fewer things that do come up for the buyer, it appears that the home has been well taken care of and puts them at ease to move forward. Don't you agree?
Correct. Yeah. And any home inspector who's been out there for, more than a couple of years, we can tell when the house has been maintained and when the house hasn't been maintained. And it's nice to go into homes that have been maintained because you know that the report I'm giving your client, it gives them satisfaction that, the house has been maintained and there are always red flags in a house, but if the house is maintained, then that's the best you can expect.
Exactly. And we do appreciate your reports that are usually not less than 50 pages. So they're very thorough.
Well, thank you.
So today, let's go over about 5 points that a home seller can do to prepare themselves before the sale of the home, to minimize how many items come up in a home inspection.
Okay. So typically when I walk up to a home, you can gauge a lot by the exterior presentation of the home. Okay. So a lot of things I look for are screening, because, a lot of times you'll find screens with holes in them, screens that are missing, the frames that are bent and twisted. That's a real simple way to ensure that, the house is giving the best face it can to the buying public. If you do have ripped screens or torn screens, broken frames, places like Home Depot, places like Ace Hardware can repair or replace the screens for you. You just bring them the size, and they've got kits that can that they can fit for the windows.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Like you mentioned, repairing that is very inexpensive. And especially for first-time home buyers that are really not aware of, the ins and outs of a home, something like several torn screens on a window might bring in their mind that there might be something wrong with the window itself when it really isn't. So again, we're trying to just keep the buyer's mind at ease and help them really realize that this is the home for them.
And I think, sometimes what happens is people just don't even realize that the screens are ripped. And I mean, nothing lasts forever. So, just because the home has ripped screens doesn't mean that the people don't take care of it. But it's just, if you're a first-time home buyer and you look at something like that, that could deter you.
Sure, great point. And on top of that point, I know a lot of times in a winter, home owners take the screens off their windows just because
Correct.
they don't need them. And I know this has come up with us several times, is then during the home inspection, we're searching for those screens to see if there are enough screens for those windows. So for a home seller, another great tip is have all those screens either put on the window when it's time to put it up for sale, or have them all in one area, such as the basement or the garage.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It just makes it easier for us because, as a home inspector, we're not going to look at every screen and make sure it fits every window. We're going to see a pile of screens and say a pile of windows. And, and on my reports, I just say that, we need to, the seller needs to have those either at the windows or put on the windows so we know that they all function.
Correct. Yeah. And then when we do our final walkthrough, the screens are up and everything's all good.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
So,
great first point. Let's move on to the second point. What's
okay. So another thing that's a big deal is GFCIs. Okay. So a GFCI is a ground fault interrupter circuit. So typically on all newer homes, anything on the exterior of the house is going to have a GFCI, and it's going to have a waterproof cover. And anything inside a house above a countertop will also have a GFCI. Now, typically what happens is the GFCIs, again, don't last forever. If you use it a lot, it will still function delivering power to an extension cord or a device. But what happens is it will not trip. So the thing is, you should test those GFCIs in all your outlets. They say monthly, but definitely test them before you're going to put the house on the market.
Great point there. And the code has changed with GFCIs around wet areas like kitchens or bathrooms, because in the past it used to be if the outlet was within 12 inches of a sink, it had
6
to be
feet.
GFCI. And now,
6 feet.
which many people might not be aware of, anything over on top of a counter, above a counter, has to be
Correct.
GFCI corrected.
Correct. Yeah. So things. The building department wants to make the home safer for us, and they do that by putting these safety devices in more areas.
Yeah, and that's another inexpensive fix, because each GFCI outlet is about how much?
About $20. You can buy them at the Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, and they're probably around $20 an outlet, and it's like 6 screws to install.
Right. Perfect.
So it's fairly simple.
Perfect tip there, Bob. So, all right, what is our next tip?
The next one would be, before you put your house on the market, I would have somebody come in and service the air conditioner and the furnace. Now, depending on if it's wintertime, you're only going to be able to service the furnace. If it's summertime, you can pretty much do both. The AC cannot be run under 65 degrees, but when I walk into a house, I take the cover off the furnace. I look for filters. I just look at the condition of the cabinet, and you can tell furnaces that have not been serviced. And this is a very inexpensive. It's under $300 typically to get them both serviced. They come in there, they clean them up, and they'll actually give you an indication of how the condition of the HVAC system.
Yeah, great tip there. A furnace and air conditioner could cost somewhere around $4,000 a piece. And if a buyer comes through and a home inspector looks at it, it looks sturdy, it doesn't look like it's been checked or inspected, that makes the buyer a little nervous, knowing that it could be a huge bill coming up in the near future. So having that clean bill of health from an HVAC professional is very reassuring to the buyer. and it's with the air conditioner. If, let's just say, the home is purchased in the cooler months where you can't test it, but if you have a invoice from an HVAC professional that it was checked during the last cooling season, that will also give that buyer peace of mind that everything's working.
Exactly. And if you're spending the money to service the equipment, then you're obviously valuing those pieces of equipment. So if you're doing that, you're typically taking care of your house better.
Agreed. Yeah, great tips so far, Bob. What else do we have?
Okay, so downspouts, a big thing in the summertime. People usually take the extensions off the downspouts because when you're mowing the lawn, you run them over with the mower, you step on them, they get in the way, they're a hassle. The downspouts need to be about 6 feet away from the house. You want to get that water coming off the roof to shed away from the house, so it doesn't seep into the basement, seep into the crawl space, or seep in underneath the slab.
Yeah, and that's a great tip. One thing I know with my experience with buyers, things that do make them nervous is some kind of water issue in the basement, seepage, and so forth. When a basement, tell me if you have noticed this as well, in an unfinished basement, it's very rare to find a basement that doesn't have some kind of hairline cracks in the concrete. And
concrete cracks 100% of the time.
Exactly. So if you have that water dumping right next to the foundation, you will most likely have seepage. That's why it's so important to direct that water away from the house, not only having those downspouts 6 feet away from the home, but also keeping those gutters clean so it's not overflowing.
Correct.
Right down next to the foundation.
Good point. Yeah, correct. Yes. And then really the last one I have is carbon monoxide detectors and smoke detectors. Typically, carbon monoxide detectors are only going to last 5 to 6 years, and smoke detectors are only going to last 10 years. Okay. Nobody ever changes smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors. That's one big thing. And it's a life safety item. And again, you can go to the big box stores and you can buy the dual combination smoke and CO2 detectors for like $10, $12 a piece. And for your family's safety, it's good to just change them out.
It is. And in some villages, they actually will require, when they do the village inspection, that you have, number one, an operating and a current CO detector and smoke detector.
Correct. Yeah. And depending on the village and depending on what code they're on, you're going to have a different number of CO detectors and smoke detectors. Yeah. Carbon monoxide and smoke.
Yeah, great. Appreciate all these tips, Bob. This is great information for the home seller to kind of be ahead of the game, before the home inspection comes. Well, again, appreciate your time, Bob Casey, A1 Property Inspections. And this is Sloflinski Homes. Have a fantastic day.